What if the update you were told would make your device better is the exact reason your phone feels like it's drowning in slow motion right now? Think about that for a second. You bought a device that worked perfectly. Snappy, responsive. You loved it. Then one morning, a notification popped up. Update available. Improved performance and security. You tapped install. And somewhere between that tap and the reboot screen, your device quietly died. Not completely, but just enough. The camera takes a half-second longer to open. The battery drains by noon. Apps freeze for just a beat too long. You chalk it up to coincidence. You tell yourself you're imagining it, but you're not imagining anything. This is a documented, repeatable, provable pattern happening across millions of devices right now. And the most dangerous part? Most people never connect the dots. They blame themselves. They start shopping for a new device. And the cycle repeats. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you changes how you think about every single update notification you'll ever see again. Here's why this isn't just a minor inconvenience. The global consumer electronics market is worth over $1.1 trillion, and a significant portion of that money moves because people believe their current device is no longer good enough. Manufacturers know this. They have entire teams dedicated to product lifecycle management. That's a corporate phrase that, when you strip away the polish, means, how do we get you to buy again? Now, I'm not saying every update is malicious. That would be a conspiracy theory, and that's not what this is. What this is something more subtle and honestly more frustrating. It's misaligned incentives. Your device was optimized for the hardware inside it when it launched. Every update after that is built for newer hardware. Faster chips, more RAM. When that software lands on your older device, it's like putting a V8 engine's fuel requirements into a four-cylinder car. The car doesn't run better, it chokes. And you, sitting there with a device that worked perfectly 6 months ago, are left wondering what happened to the phone you fell in love with. That matters because your money, your time, and your productivity are all on the line. Let's start with what you can actually see and measure. Take the iPhone 6 situation in 2017. Apple confirmed what millions of users had suspected for years. They were intentionally throttling processor performance on older iPhones through software updates. The official reason? Battery health management. The real-world experience? Your 2-year-old iPhone suddenly felt like it was running through wet concrete. Apple eventually paid $500 million in a class action settlement, $500 million, because enough people noticed what was happening and said, no, this is not acceptable. But Apple isn't alone here. In 2022, users of the Samsung Galaxy S21 reported significant battery drain increases following the Android 12 update. Reddit threads filled with identical complaints within 48 hours of the rollout. Samsung's response was measured and slow. The damage to daily usability was immediate. Google's own Pixel 6 series experienced a well-documented performance regression after a March 2022 update that caused random reboots and Wi-Fi connectivity drops. These aren't fringe cases, these are flagship devices from the 3 biggest names in smartphones, and they all got measurably worse after an update that promised to make them better. But here's where it gets more interesting, and a little uncomfortable. It's not just smartphones. Your smart TV, your tablet, your laptop, your wireless earbuds, all of them receive firmware and software updates. All of them are subject to the same dynamic. Let me give you a specific example that almost nobody talks about. The iPad Mini 4, released in 2015 with iOS 9. Buttery smooth, responsive, genuinely enjoyable to use. By the time it was running iOS 15, the same hardware felt like a completely different device. Stuttering animations, laggy app switching, a keyboard that delayed half a second before registering keystrokes. Apple kept pushing updates to a device the hardware could no longer properly support. But here's the layer most people miss entirely. The update doesn't just affect speed, it changes behavior in ways that erode your trust in the device. Unexpected camera quality shifts after computational photography algorithm updates, Bluetooth connectivity patterns that change after audio framework updates. Even your notification timing can shift after background app management changes in an OS update. You start to feel like you don't know your own device anymore. That feeling of lost familiarity is psychologically significant. It creates the exact mental state that makes you receptive to buying something new. Now we go to the root. And this is the part that will genuinely reframe how you see the entire consumer tech industry. Software development operates on a forward compatibility model. Engineers building iOS 17 or Android 14 are not sitting in a room asking, how does this perform on a 3-year-old device? They're asking, how does this perform on the hardware we're shipping this year? The testing pipelines are weighted toward new devices. QA teams spend the majority of their cycles on current generation hardware. Your older device is an afterthought in the testing matrix. It ships anyway. It has to, because abandoning software support too early creates its own PR nightmare and security vulnerabilities, so you get updates that were never truly built for your device. But it goes one layer deeper than that. Modern software is increasingly built around cloud dependencies, machine learning inference, and always-on background services. These are computationally expensive. They assume you have the latest neural processing chips and the RAM headroom to handle parallel processes. Your 2020 device has neither. Every new feature added to the OS is another task. Most tech coverage will tell you to do a clean install, clear your cache, factory reset. And yes, those things help temporarily, but they're addressing symptoms while ignoring the architecture of the problem. What almost nobody talks about is the concept of update ceilings. Every device has a maximum software version it can run without significant performance compromise. That ceiling is not the last supported update. It's usually 2 to 3 major versions before the end of support. For most iPhone users, the sweet spot is often one major iOS version behind the current. For Android users on mid-range hardware, the performance cliff usually appears around the second major Android version upgrade on a given device. There's also something called background service bloat that accumulates across updates. Each major OS version tends to add new system daemons, telemetry processes, and framework services that run continuously. On clean hardware, this is invisible. On hardware from 2 or 3 years ago, it's measurable in RAM consumption and CPU cycles. I've seen devices running 15 to 20 background processes that didn't exist in the version of the OS the device shipped with. So let's assemble everything we've covered into a complete picture. You have devices designed for specific hardware generations. You have software that evolves primarily for newer hardware. You have a testing ecosystem that deprioritizes legacy devices. You have background service accumulation that taxes older processors. You have app ecosystems that sync to current OS versions. And you have manufacturers with financial incentives aligned toward replacement rather than longevity. The result is a predictable, repeatable degradation curve. And here's the part that should genuinely frustrate you. In many cases, a device from 3 years ago running its original or near-original software is a more capable, more stable, and more enjoyable tool than the same device running the latest update. A 2019 device at its software peak can outperform a 2021 device that's been over-updated past its hardware capacity. This is not hypothetical. Benchmarking communities have documented this extensively. The GS Marina forums, XDA developers, Reddit's R/Android questions, all contain threads measuring exactly this phenomenon with reproducible numbers. The device you're thinking about replacing might not need replacing, it might need protecting. And the device you're about to buy might be 6 months away from receiving the update that pushes it into the same slow, stuttering state you're trying to escape right now. All right, practical moves, right now. First, stop auto-updating. Go into your settings and disable automatic OS updates today. Read the patch notes before you install anything. If an update is security only, strongly consider installing it. If it's a feature update or major version jump, wait 60 days and read user reports. The first 30 days of any major update rollout is when degradation reports flood the forums. Let other people be the canaries. Second, if you're on a device that still runs well, protect it. A quality case dramatically extends physical lifespan. A good battery replacement at around the 2-year mark, before the battery degrades below 80%, keeps the device running at full processor speed since battery health and throttling are directly linked. Third, and this is where it gets interesting, If you are shopping for a device right now, consider the previous generation deliberately. The iPhone 13 is still available on Amazon and still receives security updates while sitting comfortably below the software ceiling that the 15 series is approaching. The Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, available right now at significantly reduced prices, runs One UI with hardware headroom that the current update cycle hasn't exhausted yet. For Android users who want maximum control, the Google Pixel 6a on Amazon gives you clean Android on capable hardware with the option to manage your update cadence precisely. Pair any of these with a high-quality tempered glass screen protector and a battery-optimizing charging cable that stops at 80% charge to genuinely extend the lifespan of whichever device you choose. These are linked in the description. I only recommend things I have personally tested and verified. Protecting your device from update-driven degradation is an active choice, not a passive one. Make the choice deliberately. Here's the thing about this entire conversation. The update notification is going to come back tomorrow, next week, every few months for as long as you own any device. And every single time it appears, you now have a framework for making a deliberate, informed decision instead of a reflexive one. You know what to look for. You know what questions to ask. You know the difference between an update that protects your device and one that quietly degrades it. That knowledge is worth more than any single device recommendation I could make. If this changed how you think about your tech, hit subscribe because we go this deep every single week on topics the mainstream tech press glosses over. Drop a comment telling me which device you think got hit hardest by an update. I read every single one, and I'll personally reply to the most specific and detailed answers. Share this with one person who recently complained that their phone feels slower than it used to, because now you know exactly why that's happening. And the link to everything mentioned today is in the description. Disclaimer. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing constitutes professional advice of any kind.